Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. It's official, Alexander Povetkin will be facing Michael Hunter on December 7th in Saudi Arabia on the Ruiz Jr. and Anthony Joshua card. It will serve as the co-main event. Now, I'm excited about this fight because this is one of the better fights that could have been made in the heavyweight division in all of 2019. It really has been a bit of a wasteland in 2019 overall. A lot of mismatches on the whole, a few decent fights, but mainly a lot of forgettable fights and a lot of nothing. And there's also a third fight that's going to be at heavyweight on this card, which is going to be between rising prospects Filip Hrgović and Eric Molina. I will cover that separately in another video. But this fight, Povetkin and Hunter, it's been talked about all year. They almost made it earlier this year, but it didn't happen, and it's now been made for December 7th. And I actually like this fight for Michael Hunter. I've made no secret as this was sort of bubbling away as they were looking to put this fight together as the co-main event for this card, that I thought Michael Hunter, as the rising heavyweight, who's generally regarded as a top 20 heavyweight, somewhere between 10 and 20, that I think he can catch Alexander Povetkin, the 40-year-old Russian, at the right time. With his older legs, I think that Michael Hunter is going to be able to exploit that in this fight. Not early on, mind you. I think this is going to be a fight where it will be very tactical early on. Both these guys like darting in and out. They like letting their hands go, throwing hooks, throwing big right hands. And Michael Hunter will know that Alexander Povetkin, a dangerous pressure fighter, will be able to put him under pressure. And I'm sure he will be looking to see him off in those early rounds when he is fresh. And I think we've seen in recent years, Povetkin has been slowing down, but he is also 40 years old now. And I think that early on, Povetkin, like he has been, say in the Hughie Fury fight or the Anthony Joshua fight in 2018, he will look dangerous. He will probably land a few shots. He will look like the Povetkin of old. But I think through the mid-rounds, he will start to slow down, gas out a little bit, and I think this is where Michael Hunter can start to take over. I think his activity, his movement is going to ultimately start wearing down Alexander Povetkin. And I could see this one going to points, but my pick for this one is going to be Michael Hunter by late stoppage. I think Alexander Povetkin, he is ripe for the taking, and I know that's not going to impress everyone, but Povetkin himself has sort of thrown out some mitigating sort of factors for his recent performance against Hughie Fury, which was workmanlike. He looked good early on, but as I sort of mentioned, he starts to sort of slow down through the mid-rounds. But it's just that Hughie Fury just couldn't do enough in that fight to put Povetkin under any real pressure, and he wasn't doing enough to really win the fight on points. Povetkin was able to sort of canter to a decision in the end. But in terms of the quote, so Povetkin says, "Before the Hughie Fury fight, I hadn't entered the ring for almost a year, recovering from an elbow surgery, so I'm very glad that I can have another fight this year. Hunter is a strong, highly ranked boxer. I think it will be a good and interesting fight. I'm not going to make any plans for the next year. First, I have to get through this fight against Hunter, but I would definitely like to box for the world title." And why he brings up the world title there is this has been made an eliminator for the WBA world title. Which WBA world title? Well, that's unclear, because remember, there are 4 of them. And Manuel Charr, the WBA regular title holder, has made no secret he would like to have a fight with Povetkin. So depending on what happens and where this is really for, what eliminator, what belt, because there's Trevor Bryan and there's also Joe Joyce with a gold belt, sometimes an eliminator in the WBA doesn't really mean too much. But we'll park that for a moment and go to Michael Hunter, what he's saying. He says, "This is a very exciting opportunity for me. I've got to prove myself once again. Whether you're the underdog or the favorite, it's all the same because I feel like I'm the best fighter out there. I look at this fight with Povetkin as my gold medal fight. I was in the Olympics and so was he. He won the gold medal and I didn't. So this is basically my gold medal fight right here. I'm always pushing for the KO. I thrive on making guys quit, so I'm definitely going to push for it. I'm a boxer first though, and I'm certainly going to be boxing his shoes off. I see any quit in him, then I'm going to take advantage of that." So that was Michael Hunter. So Alexander Povetkin putting up a few reasons why he didn't feel like he performed as maybe he might have in the Hughie Fury fight. But for me, I mean, maybe some of that is valid. Obviously, some ring rust could have been there, but I do think that he is slowing down, and that would have been a contributing factor in his performance against Hughie Fury, where he looked okay, but it wasn't exactly vintage Povetkin, say, from 5 years ago. But for Michael Hunter, who is on the rise, this is a good opportunity to get a win here and solidify himself as an up-and-coming heavyweight contender, put himself in the conversation as a top 10 fighter, because I think Povetkin is there for the taking, but it's not going to be easy, and the style matchup here is a little bit different to some of the opponents that Michael Hunter has faced. I've said before that Michael Hunter has looked really good against guys that are sort of big, tall, and lumbering, and he can exploit that with his quickness and some of the angles that he works. But against Povetkin, it's going to be a different kettle of fish, a different fighter, a smaller heavyweight who's going to be pressuring him. So Michael Hunter probably will have to box and box smart in those early rounds. Povetkin is very dangerous. So I could see this playing out as Povetkin starting to slow down and then Michael Hunter starting to take over. And I could see it going to points with a Hunter win or even a stoppage, as I mentioned. But I like this fight. This is one of the better fights in the heavyweight division. And as I mentioned, Michael Hunter, I think in some performances has flattered to deceive against bigger, slower, lumbering heavyweights. So maybe that has made him look better than he really is. So we have to consider that. And maybe Povetkin's going to go in there and do a number on him. I don't expect to see that, but it's a possibility. What do you make of this? Do you think Michael Hunter can look good and get a win against Alexander Povetkin December 7th? Or is Povetkin still got enough in the tank and we're going to see him at some point fighting off in another WBA title fight? Albeit against, one of 4 different champions potentially. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.